Hey folks, it's Pastor Rick, your Utah wine pastor, and I've got an update for you on a memorable meal that we had last Saturday. And I guess one of the things that makes a meal memorable is when things don't go quite the way you'd like them to go. Something like that happened last Saturday when Bonnie and I hosted our Salt Lake Wine Group on February 22nd. Now, we've been meeting with this same group of folks for dinner and wine just about once a month for almost 20 years now. They're all great cooks, and we all share an interest in fine wine. Matter of fact, one of the members of our group, Greg, even makes his own wine, and it's also very good. And so the way it works is this: a host couple chooses the entree and picks the wines to go with it, usually four, maybe five different bottles. Then another couple brings appetizers, and another one brings salad or dessert, and then we all share the cost of the wines. So this time it was Bonnie and my turn to host, and I decided to try something I'd never tried with the group before, and I'd had this good experience with my Christmas Day memorable meal that was rack of lamb that Bonnie, Matt, and I had. And so I thought it would be a good idea to try something similar with the wine group. And I expected to pair the lamb with a couple of different red Bordeaux that I'd picked out that I had never tried before. And so I marinated 2 racks of lamb in olive oil, garlic, and fresh rosemary for several hours. And then before putting them in the oven at 425 degrees, I seared them real quickly on the stovetop in a hot pan and then brushed them with Dijon mustard, coated them with a gluten-free crumb mix for Bonnie, and I coated the other one with seasoned panko breadcrumbs. Um, and after about 20 minutes in the hot oven, they came out at about 140-degree temperature. I let them rest for almost 15 minutes. And when I carved them up, they were this really nice, juicy, pink medium color, which is just perfect for Bonnie and me. I think maybe the other ones would like them a bit rarer, but nevertheless, they tasted great. The oil and garlic and herbs did their part, and the coatings added a nice bit of crunch. So far, so good. Um, and then with the wines, we got off to a good start with an 11-year-old Italian Spumante that I first tasted last month at Cheryl Shoey's Wasatch Wine Academy class. It was called Terra Rosa. It was from Terra Rosa, and I'll probably butcher the name, but it was Le Mi Bollicine, made from 100% Sangiovese grapes. And at 11 years old, the bubbles, or the bead, as the wine press likes to call it, was kind of subdued, but it was present, and it gave a nice tingle to the tongue, and the little tinge of copper color that came from using Sangiovese grapes. It gave the wine a really pretty sort of tinge. And of course, the wine had a nice depth of red fruit character that you don't often find in, say, Pinot Noir based California sparklers. And everyone seemed to really enjoy this Spumante. Well, I got around to serving the first Bordeaux. It was a 2020 vintage of a Chateau Bordeaux from the Blé region, and that's just east and on the other side of the Garonne River in Bordeaux. It's almost directly across from the famous Médoc region. And we really liked this. The wine had a 93-point rating from Decanter magazine, and it was made up of 87% Merlot, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon with a little, like 3% Cabernet Franc thrown in. And all of us enjoyed it a lot. I can tell you it was absolutely ready to drink. A lot of good fruit, but not a fruit bomb the way some California cabs come across. At the traditional level of alcohol at 13.5%, it was not hot tasting at all. This wine still had a nice, firm bit of tannin to give it grip and structure. It was definitely made in this classic old world style. And I would tell you that at $20, I would consider it a great value. And so up to this point, we were 2 for 2, but my luck was about to run out. Next up was another Bordeaux, the one I'd never tasted before also. It was a 2018 Bordeaux called Chateau du Vallier. And it was from the Entre du Mer region that lies just between the Garonne and Dordogne rivers. And sadly, I took one whiff of it after pouring it into my glass and knew immediately it was corked. It had that unmistakable nasty smell of wet cardboard or a damp, musty basement. And it was disappointing to say the least. Absolutely undrinkable. And it hurt a little because this wine was cost almost $27 a bottle. And sadly, the wine was so flawed, I wouldn't even keep it around to use for cooking. And so it required an emergency trip to my wine fridge, and I pulled out an old reliable 2017 Pouche Haute from the Languedoc region in southern France. And although it was very nice, it was not that classic Bordeaux lamb pairing that I wanted. Well, we finished the night with a 2022 Dow Cab from California. And it also was very nice, very drinkable. And although it was much more recent vintage, it drank well. It emphasized fruit more than structure the way most New World wines would. And I would say it was also enjoyable. It got a 91-point rating from Wine Enthusiast. And it's from that warm region of California near Paso Robles, which, as you might expect, because it's hot, it would drive up the alcohol level to over 14%. But the abundance of fruit on the palate sort of kept that hot alcohol taste at bay. And here again, everyone seemed to enjoy it. I guess if I had to do it all over again, I would start with the Dow and the fruit sort of forward wine before going to the Bordeaux and kind of work our way up from a fruit dominated wine to wines that were more structured. And of course, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to deal with corked wines where emergency replacements were required, but you just can never know that in advance. So would I try another bottle of the Chateau du Vallier? Probably not. And come to think of it, I hope I only bought one bottle of it for wine night. I better go check. I guess I'll leave it at that. I guess I'd recommend the Terra Rosa Spumante, the Chateau Bordeaux, and the Pouche Haute, and the Dow. And I would probably stay away from Chateau du Vallier. So just take care, everyone. With that, I'll say goodbye. Cheers and amen.